This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Riley Smith.
Well, good day and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. Today is Friday, October 28th, 2022. We're so glad you can join us today. In today's episode of Ag Matters PM, I talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan for our weekly update on the U.S. Drought Monitor. We also have a check of the ag weather outlook, but first, let's run down the markets.
It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net.
Well, we're wrapping up trading for the week in the ag marketplace, and for a bit of analysis, we go to Tyler Schau of agmarket.net. Tyler, what have we seen in the grain so far today?
Pretty blasé day, just kind of another day like we've seen the last couple of weeks, really. You got all of corn and beans trading in a pretty tight range. You know, corn basically traded in a 5-cent range today, which I guess 2 or 3 years ago would have seemed pretty normal. After the last few years, it seems a little bit awkward, I guess, sitting here looking at the screen all day, kind of expecting some type of a breakout move one way or another, and we just can't seem to get it. Soybeans did end up closing up on the day about a nickel, so that kind of helped. We got November beans that settled at 13.86.5. There again, you've just had beans kind of trading in a pretty narrow band here the last few weeks. $14 on the high end on November and $13.70 on the low end in November. So really tough to break out either way, which I mentioned when I was on Wednesday that, one of the things that I encourage producers is to not get too complacent here. These are pretty good price levels. If you're sitting on a lot of unpriced grain, probably not a bad idea to make some sales or at least get some put coverage on. Wheat market, another down day. It's been tough to find any traction in the wheat. And all three markets are really just waiting for some type of catalyst to push prices higher and really don't seem to get it.
Now, it feels like with the issues we've had, exporting grain with the Mississippi River, that there would be plenty of reason for the prices to kind of falter a little bit. But you could say that not having much go on in the prices this week is kind of a blessing. And, it's better than having them tank like they possibly could.
That's one of the ways we've been looking at it. We really think that domestic demand is strong, both for beans and corn. The ethanol plants are running hard. We're not going to slow down feeding livestock. Cattle, hogs, chicken, they got to get fed. So the demand for corn is there. The demand for beans is very strong domestically. Domestic crushers are making a lot of money turning soybeans into soybean meal and soybean oil right now. They're not going to slow down. So that's propped this market up or held it up. And with the declining yields that the USDA has been pumping out over the last few months in their WASDE reports, we've got to trim exports. So I think the fact that the Mississippi River is struggling the way it is, or we're struggling to get grain moved down the river, yes, it's having an impact. But I would agree with you wholeheartedly that it's also a good sign that we have those struggles and yet prices are staying elevated. Really tough to get them to buckle under that pressure. So, I mean, that's got us thinking that, there's some support under this market. And, one of the things we kind of look at is the South American hemisphere or the Southern hemisphere in South America. And if they run into any type of issues during this growing season, whether it be drought, too wet, anything like that, and then I think you see that top side of this range kind of lift or come off of these markets.
All right, and what are we seeing on the other side of the ag marketplace in the livestock complex?
Today was kind of a ho-hum day. Yesterday hogs broke really hard. Pork exports were pretty poor, to be honest with you. And the hog market really sold off over $3, kind of an aggressive sell-off there. And it was already kind of at the top end of the range. So, I would have said the most risk coming into yesterday was the downside. it went ahead and took it. Got a little bit of that back, which is not uncommon after big sell-off days for the market to overdo it to one side or the other. And we kind of picked up about $1 on December hogs. Cattle market, cash prices remain strong both for live cattle and feeder cattle. The feeder cattle selling in sale barns, at least in the northern tier of states in the U.S., they're very strong. And so that's propping that feeder calf market up. Same in the fat cattle market. You've really got two sides of the story. The South, the Southern Plains, fat cattle prices are a little bit lower, but they are very, very strong in the North, and that's helping that fat cattle market out immensely.
All right, Tyler. Well, lots of great information today for those of our listeners and our viewers who would like to get in touch and learn more from the folks at agmarket.net. How can they do that?
We always encourage you to go to our website, agmarket.net, check out our ag intel, sign up for a 30-day trial. Also take a look. We're going to have a winter conference in Nashville in February. See if you can fit that into your schedule. And if they want to reach out to me direct, my phone number is 701-987-6009.
All right, Tyler, it's been great visiting with you today, and we look forward to talking with you again soon.
You bet. Take care.
That again was Tyler Schau of agmarket.net. We'll go ahead and take a look at how those numbers close. That's courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. December corn is down 1.5 at 6.80 3/4. November soybeans up 5.5 at 13.87 3/4. January soybean meal up 8.30 at 4.1620. Soybean oil down 35 at 69.21. Chicago wheat down 9 1/4 at 8.29 1/4. Minneapolis spring wheat down 5.5 at 9.45 even. Kansas City hard red wheat down 7 1/4 at 9.25 even. December oats up 8 even at 3.66 1/2. On the Merc, December live cattle down 42 at 153 even. November feeders down 25 at 177.87. December lean hogs up 97 at 86.10. Pork cutout up 35 at 86.12. And November Class 3 milk down 18 cents at 20.21. And that's been a check of the markets here on Ag Matters PM. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I have my weekly chat with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan about the U.S. Drought Monitor. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Riley Smith. While we did see some relieving rains earlier this week, drought conditions have continued to worsen in the state of Iowa. It doesn't help that the western part of the state didn't see much of the rain, even though that's the area that needed it the most. I talked with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan again this week for a check on the U.S. Drought Monitor and some of the data it has for the state of Iowa. We're back again this week to talk with Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan about this week's U.S. Drought Monitor. First off, Justin, what are some of the changes that we've seen in the Drought Monitor from last week's data?
Hi, Riley. Good to be with you. So, yeah, we've seen some degradation in western Iowa. We did see widespread rainfall over 2 days last week, or earlier this week, I should say, that was beneficial in terms of soil moisture, but also getting some stream flows slightly up. So that's where we've seen status quo or no change across much of the map. Now we turn to western Iowa, where it missed out on pretty much of that rainfall. We've seen expansion of D2 conditions in southwestern Iowa across the Missouri border, and then across the Minnesota border in northwestern Iowa. And then an expansion of a little bit of D4 exceptional drought around Sioux City and Woodbury County. You look at Woodbury County and Sioux City's period of record from National Weather Service Co-op Station goes back to 1896. They're about 50% of normal precipitation for year to date, and this is the driest year on record. So extremely dry conditions up in northwestern Iowa, and hence where that D4 category was introduced. That's the first widespread introduction of D4 since 2013, the 2011 to 2013 drought. The highest extent of D4 during the 2012 drought was about 2.5%. We're currently at 0.2%. So very small, but it is significant for that introduction.
Right, and of course, last weekend we also saw those very strong winds, strong, consistent winds, and that created, with those dry conditions, a pretty high fire risk. And I was back home in southwest Iowa over the weekend, and we saw a pretty decent fire start up in Montgomery County. How is this fire risk going to continue? Are we going to see maybe these windy conditions again, or is this colder, wetter signal that we're seeing going to, help with that a lot?
Yeah, so we think of last week into this week. With that strong cold front that came through, that actually brought us the rainfall. In front of that system, very strong winds out of the south and southwest, dew point temperatures down in the single digits. That is extremely dry air. So you couple that with all the dry fuel that we have out there, fire dangers are pretty high this time of year, and exceptionally high given how dry things are. So the shift to cooler temperatures, we've also seen an increase in relative humidity. That helps mitigate some of these fire dangers. But yes, we should expect windy days as we move forward. If we look at the outlooks getting into the first week of November, we're seeing a high probability of warmer temperatures. So this time of year, we should be in the mid 50s during the day, low to mid 30s overnight. So we'll see slightly above average temperatures there, not exceedingly warm. But we're also seeing an elevated wet signal, which is excellent given that we're starting to wrap up harvest. But our subsoil moisture profiles are dry, but not frozen. So any moisture that we can bank before the profiles freeze is excellent news in terms of replenishing subsoil moisture, but also having moisture in the tank for next growing season.
Now, we know that pretty much the whole state is at some sort of moisture deficit right now. The rains that we have gotten recently, and then, like you mentioned, there's rain in the forecast as well. How is that going to cut into the deficits that we're seeing right now?
So if we look at going back a full year, now we remember this drought has been around since 2020. So in the driest parts of the state, we have deficits on the order of 15 to 25 inches. So these types of rainfalls, while good for short-term moisture infiltration, we're going to need several months, if not more than a year, of above average precipitation, snowpack, rainfall, whatever moisture we can get to really start to put a dent in those longer term deficits. So the rainfalls that we saw recently and what we're looking at in the outlooks are good for short-term improvement in the, let's say, wetter parts of the state where precipitation deficits are anywhere from 4 to 6 inches below average. But again, we're going to need a long stretch of wet conditions to really start to improve the longer-term drought conditions that we've seen across the state.
And of course, we're always worrying about the Mississippi River as well. Some people were saying that it saw, a good amount of rain that kind of raised the levels a bit, but did that stick around, or, and I'm assuming this is the case, did most of it just get absorbed back into the ground?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did see a rebound in stream flows across the state and also the tributaries that feed the Mississippi River. So we did see a rebound in stream flow and river levels. But a lot of that moisture, as you mentioned, is soaking into the soil profile given how dry things are. So you need two things to happen. You need to have regular rainfalls to saturate the soil profile, at least the top soil profile, so you can get runoff from these events. When you get runoff, that runoff goes into the streams. You see rising stream flows, and then those streams that feed the Mississippi start to raise its level. So again, we're going to need several months of above average precipitation and a good spring melt to really raise the Mississippi.
All right, and what else has been going on in the state of Iowa, as far as weather and climate is concerned?
Well, so, speaking of drought, we've just finished a first draft of the Iowa drought plan, and this will be used to address drought situations in the future and help us have a coordinated effort across the state to address drought and the impacts that we see for our stakeholders, our farmers, and our municipalities and rural areas of the state. So we're also, in terms of weather, looking like a La Nina will hang around into winter. And this will be the third winter in which we've had the La Nina phase of the El Nino Southern Oscillation. So again, this is a large-scale weather pattern that impacts where thunderstorms set up over the Pacific. Typical La Nina years in winter, we see near normal snowpack for all the years that we've had La Nina. If you break those apart into weak La Nina versus strong La Ninas, we're on the weaker side, and in weaker La Nina winters, historically, we've seen above average snowpack. So that could be good news if we get those snowpacks, and then for spring melt and infiltration of soil moisture.
All right, Justin. Well, lots of great information today. For those of our viewers and our listeners who would like to get in touch and talk about Iowa's climate and some of the issues it may present, how can they get in touch?
Okay, so 3 ways. Just go on Google, Google Iowa Climatology Bureau. It'll bring you to our webpage and our contact information. My direct office line is 515-281-8981. And my email address is justin.glisan, Glisan, at iowaagriculture.gov.
All right, Justin. Been great talking with you today, and we'll talk with you again next week.
Yes, Riley, always great to talk with you.
That again was Iowa State Climatologist Dr. Justin Glisan. And while we're speaking about the weather, let's go ahead and take a look at the Ag Weather Outlook. Well, as Dr. Glisan just said, we have some unseasonably high temperatures this weekend. So if you're going to be out trick-or-treating, it's probably going to be a little warmer than you're used to. But we still have some nice sunny skies and beautiful conditions to enjoy if you're going to be outside. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look at what the National Weather Service has in store for the next 24 hours. As you can see from the National Weather Service, we're now getting the weather that we probably should have seen in September. Today we have sunny and fair conditions across the state, highs ranging from the upper 50s to low 60s. Tonight, mostly calm and clear with lows ranging from the mid to upper 30s. And tomorrow will be unseasonably warm and sunny with highs around the state ranging from the low to upper 60s. And taking a look at the affiliate weather map, as you can see for tomorrow, Cherokee will be sunny with a high of 67, Shenandoah sunny and 66, Des Moines sunny and 64, Waterloo sunny and 63, Albia sunny and 64, and Clinton will be sunny with a high around 63. For more detailed forecasts in your part of the state, make sure to check in with your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been a check of the Ag Weather Outlook, and that also brings us to the end of this episode of Ag Matters PM. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and LinkedIn. And you can find all of our video content as well as previous episodes of AM/PM on our YouTube channel. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when those videos go live. Don't forget as well our free Twice Daily Market podcast on Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Riley Smith. On behalf of Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.